Chantal's out here making every kind of bigoted comment that she can think of, like it's some kind of Pokemon. Like she has to say every single one of them to become the ultimate bigot master. I don't know what's up with that, but let's discuss one instance of it, shall we? A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe Christina, Wild Rose, J.M. Beans, Jay Thomas, Lauren Chris, Michael B. Petty, That British Unicorn, Sky Andropolis, Debbie Elliott, D. Higgins, Juliet Q, and Kate O. Today we're going to talk about Chantal and age shaming. And if you guys don't know, I always record these a little bit in advance. There's a lot happening right now in the land of Chantal. She's been nonstop raging pretty much, I want to say, for like a week. Now, longer really if you consider all of our other live streams, though there were a couple that were just incredibly mind-numbingly boring. So I figured, why not talk about it? Like a tiny bit, okay? Couple things I want to say. First, a couple of you mentioned the glare on my glasses is annoying. I am sorry, but there is nothing I can do about it until my eye heals completely. It is how it is, unfortunately, right? Like, I'm not going to sacrifice my vision for anything. And then... two, equally as importantly, is this is going to be a get ready with me style. I'm trying out a couple new things. This is going to be like a very quick, very simple look that I do just for filming, and you guys can see what I'm doing, and you know, whatever. If you guys have any questions, let me know, that kind of a thing. I'm also going to be using this tiny little mirror. Yay! It's like an antique mirror. I got this from... I don't know. I want to say I got this somewhere in Arizona. When I went to Yellowstone, we drove through there and we stopped at a like a secondhand store thing, and I found this mirror. And when I first got it, it was completely black and completely covered in like the gray patina. But I took a little bit of that off because I like the way this looks a little bit better. Anyway, it's really cute. I'll be using this to see my face because I can't use my regular mirror because I am very blind without my glasses and I cannot wear contacts once again. Anyway. With all that said, let's put on some makeup. We'll make this really fast. It'll be a short, sweet video. Well, it'll be short, sweet, I don't know. This will be a short video. I'm going to do a really quick face of makeup. You guys can see what I do, and let's jump into it. So if you guys aren't aware, Chantal has a history of making bigoted comments, especially like when it comes to age shaming. That's actually been one of the oldest problems that I can remember. She's gone after people for how old they are, in particular DCMediaGirl and Miss Hussy, who she continues off and on to describe as being older than she actually is. And I know that recently Miss Hussy has actually decided that she will no longer be discussing the Boheme team and will instead be focusing on other things, which I genuinely understand. I mean, it's... Chantal and Amber are a lot. Just talking about it from my perspective too, sometimes I go back and forth between feeling sorry for them and being infuriated with them and being entertained by them. And there's a lot of complex emotions there, I think, which is part of the reason why I sometimes think I'm like, you know, I might stop doing it eventually. Not now, probably not anytime soon. They're entertaining and I'm bored and I'm stuck indoors all day. So, you know, this is what I do with my free time. By the way, if I haven't told you guys before, I have a full-time job. This is in no way what I do to like pay for groceries and stuff. I essentially just treat this channel like a self-sustaining hobby. So any money that I earn on YouTube goes directly back into my channel. I bought some like equipment. I told you guys before. I have a nice mic now. I have like the backdrop, all of that stuff. I basically just bought with whatever money I made on YouTube, right? So like I bought a couple of things. Like recently I bought a thing for my chair to roll around because I have carpets on my floor. I bought a mat thing so that my chair can roll around with ease. That's it. Like, I don't really tend to buy anything personal for myself or anything like that. Everything made on this goes towards that. But I don't like personally keep any of it. At least not right now. I don't make a lot from on here, and I, don't treat this like a job. I treat it like a hobby. That's why I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this when it's fun. When it's no longer fun, I'm probably going to leave. So I can understand why Miss Hussy wanted to leave. It got a lot. It got to be a lot. And honestly, Chantal especially is not fun to talk about because she is someone who has a lot of bigoted ideas. Now, I go back and forth when it comes to thinking whether or not Chantal is actually a bigot, because on the one hand, people who have bigoted ideas generally tend to be bigots. On the other hand, a lot of what Chantal says, I feel like, comes from a place of like anger. Like she'll lash out and she'll say anything if she thinks she can hurt you the way you've hurt her, despite the fact that what you have said has probably not been aimed to hurt her. She wants to like dig at people, something I've never understood about her. Anyway, what I'm using right now is Maybelline New York Master Camo by Face Studio. It's Apricot for dark circles, but I'm using it around my mouth. If you guys don't know, I have darkness around my mouth. It's a really common problem with a lot of like Southeast Asian women, and I think also like darker skin. I mean, like black women also have this issue. Not 100% sure, as you guys can tell, I'm not a black woman, but I know that Southeast Asian women suffer from this a lot. So I use the apricot color. I don't need anything darker than this. I'm just gonna go with it underneath my eyes and around my mouth, and that will just help cancel out some of the orange. This is something I've been doing recently because I don't like using the concealer that I was using before, which is my Tarte concealer. I hate it. I genuinely hate it. It is so creamy, but I don't want to throw it away because I paid money for it and I'm very cheap. Anyway, I got very sidetracked. So she has this habit of going after Miss Hussey, especially about her age. She'll say she's like bullying younger women on the internet. You know, you're like a 50-year-old man, despite the fact that Miss Hussey is not 50. She said she's called Miss Hussey 60-year-old before as well. And that's a thing that I never understood. Like, why does she fixate so much on their age? And it occurs to me, I think, that Chantal wants to be the perpetual victim. This is a problem that she has in all aspects of her life. Her refusal to see herself as anything but at the whims of the world is part of, I think, what led her to where she is. Her inability to take action, to change her life, to improve her life for the better. It's a problem. And she does this with age a lot because it puts her in an assumed position of vulnerability, right? If you look at somebody in school, for example, and if a teacher is bullying them, a la Snape from Harry Potter, then automatically you're going to look at that person and you're going to think, oh, okay, well, the teacher is the bad guy here. I mean, you're much older, you should know better. Not really understanding that after a certain point in your development, people are who they are. That's why the idea of like a 17-year-old with, I don't know, like a 25-year-old would be like a little bit, it'd be very suspect to me. But if you increased everybody's age by like 10 years, so like a 27-year-old with like a 35-year-old, it isn't all that weird anymore, right? Because while the age gap there is still relevant, it gets less and less relevant the older the participants get. So in this case, yes, Miss Hussey might be, I think he is 46. I'm actually not sure what Miss Hussey's pronouns are. If somebody knows, please do let me know. I don't want to get them wrong, but I also don't know. I'm going to go with he for now, I think. I think I said in a video that I'll go with they. I'll just go with they to be polite. I don't know. So I'm just going to go with they, and if anyone knows, let me know down below. But they are 46 years old. They're 10 years older than Chantal, give or take. I think 9, actually. By the way, I'm using the Makeup Forever foundation. The shade's linked down below. I like this foundation a lot, especially for filming. It's called Ultra HD, and I'm filming in 4K. So, haha, joke's on you, Makeup Forever. I did one better. You don't know technology. I'm focusing it around my mouth to cover up all that orange, but also to cover up all of my discoloration there. So she will put the person in an older position, to put them in a position of authority so that she can play the perpetual victim, right? I think Smokey, Steve, and Mark said it best, but they're like, well, you'd have to be lying in a prone position to be that big of a victim. And that's basically it. Yes, Miss Hussey's older than you, but you are not a child. You're a grown-ass adult woman. If you were like 17 years old and your frontal cortex was still developing, then I would give you a pass. But after the age of 25, people just sort of are who they are, right? You don't fundamentally change outside of like severe trauma. Like personality traits pretty much are cemented. I'm not saying that it's not possible to change your mind on certain things and whatnot, but what I mean is that you are no longer an impressionable young person that needs the protection of the world at large. Before the age of 25, even though you're legally an adult, I genuinely believe that there should be some guidelines in place to help you succeed in life, because it's easy for you to be taken advantage of when you're that age. Chantal is not any one of those things. She's been in the world and on YouTube for long enough that she should know better and she should be able to do better for herself. Her choosing not to do better for herself is nobody's fault but her own. So I don't know why she does this. Well, actually, I do know why. I think Chantal suffers from a case of arrested development. And I don't mean in the way that I'm not talking about the show, basically. Which, if you guys haven't watched it, please do watch the first 3 seasons. They are amazing. Everything Netflix made for that show is absolute garbage, and I would not recommend it. Okay, I am trying out a new concealer. This is the Maybelline Superstay. This seems like a very Maybelline-heavy episode. It's not, I mean, nobody sponsors me. No one knows I exist. But, you know, this is Maybelline also. This is the Maybelline Superstay Concealer. I really like the Superstay Foundation, so I thought I might like this. This is in the color medium. They have like 4 shades. Very terrible, but I don't know. Let's see if this is any good. Color match actually seems very nice. So, I think that Chantal has arrested development. Essentially, she's frozen in one part of her life. I don't exactly know why. I am not her therapist. I'm not a close family friend, and I don't have access to her entire life. But I have watched Toad McKinley's A Canadian Horror Story, and I think that's almost the same thing. I'm joking, of course, but the documentary that he made on Chantal was actually very enlightening. I think that Chantal has had some trauma in her life, whether she acknowledges it and processes it or not. She's talked multiple times about having a boyfriend who was 25 years old or something like that when she was like 25 and had a pregnant fiance who like tried to show up at her school to fight her. You're a child being taken advantage of by a predator. That is not like a fun, exciting story to me. That actually genuinely made me very, very horrified for her and made me feel very sad for her. And I remember that in the series, and she talked about this in one of her old videos, that she tried to commit suicide because her mom tried to keep her from seeing him. Well, she threatened to commit suicide. And then she pretended to commit suicide. And when they took her to the hospital to make it look like she actually had followed through with her actions, she went to the bathroom and then tried to take a few pills to like calm them. Those are not the actions of a mentally healthy person. No one will convince me otherwise. So that's one thing. And then she's talked multiple times about her French lover, who I don't know if he's real or not, but from the way that she talks about him, he has always come across as one of the more real stories that she's talked about. And once more, I think she was like 17 years old when they started like seeing each other. And it speaks to me of, you know, someone taking advantage of a young person. And I'm sure that Chantal then and maybe now thinks that it was a sign of maturity, that, oh, you know, there's this older guy and he really likes me and therefore I'm a mature adult. I'm not a child like the rest of them. When in reality, people like that are really, really good at grooming their victims, and no one will convince me otherwise, right? Like for whatever else Chantal's faults are, both her French lover and that guy that she was seeing when she was in high school are both creeps, and they should never have been anywhere near her. I also know that, you know, her mom had her really, really young, and that, you know, she was a teen mom, and that can take a toll on a person. I don't know what their situation was growing up, but if money was tight, sometimes that can cause a lot of difficulty. Her mom had a boyfriend who once referred to Chantal as a cocksucker. Like, that is not an okay thing in any regards. So, like, that's another thing that she's had to deal with. Maybe there were other people in her mom's life who referred to her in such derogatory terms. We don't know. And it genuinely makes me feel sad for her, but it also has perpetually, I think, frozen her in that time period. Like, she's been frozen in time and when she was essentially like 17 years old. She thinks of herself, she sees herself as 17 years old. And I mentioned something similar for Amber Lynn Reid as well, right? Like, Amber is perpetually stuck in her youth. And part of that, I also think, is that that's when she had most mobility. That's when she was thinnest. That's when she maybe liked herself the most when it came to how she looked, even if it's like more in retrospect than it is anything else. By the way, the blush that I'm using is the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in the color Paaarty. This one I think was a Sephora gift like a few years ago. I'm really starting to wear it down a little. All of that is also sort of exemplified by, not exemplified, all of that is also sort of compounded by the fact that her mom remarried and had her sister, a sister who is much, much younger. Now, you guys know, I am the oldest of 3 siblings, right? I've got a younger brother and a younger sister, and I'm telling you for a fact that my parents spoil my youngest sister. They do, right? And, I mean, for the most part, it's not something I care too much about, right? A lot of stuff that my parents were able to do for me physically, they cannot really do for my sister anymore, right? They don't have the energy anymore. They're not like super young people anymore. So it makes sense. They had me and my brother pretty young. So I can see why they would want to compensate for her in that regard with like more gifts, more presents, more whatevers. But that also led to a little bit of resentment when I was younger. It made me feel like, oh, my mom loves her last baby the most, which obviously as an adult who's processed her emotions, I could say, that's true, and you know I'm coming for you, little sister. No, I'm joking. Obviously, my mom loves all of us equally. My dad loves all of us equally. It's not that they love me any less than they love me and than they love my brother or my little sister. It's just they love us differently, right? And that's fair enough. Each kid has their own needs. Each kid comes at a different time. And you don't have the same reaction to each of your children. And anyone who says that you should love your children exactly the same doesn't really understand the concept of having children. You love them the same amount, but you cannot treat each kid the same because kids are not interchangeable. They're not the same person. They have their own personality, their thoughts, everything is different. So I think that Chantal's mom having a second kid really put her in this position where she felt envious of how much attention her younger sister was getting. And we've seen that, right? She's made like comments about her sister being slow and stuff like that in the past with probably to nothing, right? Like without really any need for it. Oh, by the way, I always use the same 2 products on my eyebrows, so I'm going to mention these 2 because they're different. This is the Maybelline Brow Extension. This is the first time I'm trying it. I have no idea if it's good. In the color Deep Brown, it's a Fiber Pomade Crayon. And the other one, this pencil, I've used a multiple of these. This one's great. It's the Maybelline New York Brow Ultra Slim, also in the color Black Brown. This is a little too dark. I should have not gotten Black Brown, but whatever. I like them both. I've used that pencil up several times. I'm just really, really sick of the Anastasia Brow Pomade. I've been using it for like a year solid. All right, I look like I have Sharpied on my brows. This is maybe a little too intense even for me, and you know me, I love me a good sharp brow. Let's see if some spooling can fix this. Not spooning, that's a cure to a different problem. I think all this has led to Chantal trying to garner sympathy wherever she can. And she tries to do this on the internet too, not really understanding that people in her life are going to cut her a lot more slack than people on the internet are. And I'm sure the people in her life have cut her a lot of slack. They've coddled her to a certain degree because of all of the things that I mentioned before. They've probably noticed it more than I have. After all, they are her loved ones, right? So she's in this weird place where she doesn't seem to understand that people don't need to treat her with kid gloves, not even realizing that she is being treated with kid gloves from her family. And you're wondering, you've gotten way off tangent. What does any of this have to do with age shaming? Well, she sees most older people, like her mother and her grandmother and anyone older than her really, as a position of authority. And much like the teenage mindset that she's stuck in, she wants to rebel against everyone. So if there's someone who's older than her, she's like, well, you should know better. Why are you behaving like this? You should be blah, 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 nicer to me, kinder to me, whatever. Not really understanding that at some point you're just equals. You're no longer like younger than them. It doesn't really matter if you're 4, 5, 7 years, 10 years younger than someone. At this point, you're all adults. You're all responsible for your own actions. And as one adult, I can criticize another adult. Wouldn't go after a child, but you know. Chantal doesn't really like older people because I can't help but feel that they remind her of her own mortality. Now, that's not a particularly original idea. That's actually one of the biggest reasons behind systematic age shaming, which is actually a really big problem in the workforce, especially in the tech sector, where most people are very, very young. I mean, I've been to the Microsoft campus, and I swear to God, there wasn't a single person over the age of 35 there. It's a really big problem, and they get a lot of that stereotyping that a lot of the other like group discriminations that you would see, right? So I think that seeing older people, especially people who are significantly older than her, makes her think that, well, you know, these people are who I'm going to be like one day in the future. And she doesn't like what it says, because if you look at, like, say, DCMediaGirl, right? DCMediaGirl is a fairly lean, healthy, active, vibrant person. And so when you look at Chantal and how little that she has going for her in her life now, and then you think about, oh, well, in a few years, will I be like DCMediaGirl? The comparison comes up short. She's reminded of the fact that even at her older age, she's doing better than Chantal is. And Chantal doesn't like that. She doesn't like being reminded of the fact that her mortality is so much closer than someone who's so much older than her. And I think it freaks her out, and I think it's one of the reasons why she tends to go after people's age so much. By the way, the color that I'm using is the Raw Beauty Christie and ColourPop collab that they did, and it's in Spare Time. This is great. If you guys don't know, I love green, as exemplified by the fact that I have nearly 3 identical dresses. They're not even shirts. And I wear them interchangeably all of the time on camera because I love them and I don't care. Now I'm going to use from the same collection, the color Marigold, and I'm going to put it in my inner corners. This has actually been one of my really favorite, easy go-to looks that I've been doing. It's maybe a little bit more fall appropriate, but, you know, whatever. Time is an illusion, and we've all been stuck indoors for way, way too long. And last but not least, I'm going to put on a little bit of a lip color. This is Bite Beauty's Amuse Bouche lipstick in the color Fig. And that's it. That is kind of how I do my makeup. The base makeup is the most important out of everything that you put on because especially in 4K, it will really show up. I'm going to put my glasses back on because once more, I'm super blind. So to wrap this up, I think that Chantal's age shaming is once more a symptom of her own psyche, right? Like most things in her life, I think that it is a combination of her being hurt and taking it out on others and her wanting to rebel against authority. those are not excuses. They're just explanations of why I think that she is the way that she is. Once more, I just like to state that I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not and even if I was one, I'm not a doctor. That's what I was going to say. And even if I was one, I'm not her psychologist, therapist, or doctor. So it doesn't matter what I personally have to say about her. These are just my observations as a person who reads a lot of books from what I've seen her do and behave and from my own experience and my own childhood. Those are the observations that I have taken away from her. Now, I think that despite all of those things, despite the trauma that she might have had in her past that has led her to be the way that she is, including, honestly, eating herself to 400 pounds, none of that really excuses any of her behavior. Just because you've had something bad happen to you doesn't mean that your agency to be a better person is gone. Everyone has the capability of being a better person. Everybody has the capability of improving their lot in life. That is one of the great things about being human, is that you have some choices available to you at all times. Chantal, more than most, to be honest, she's got a lot of privilege in her life. She is a white person, for one thing. And for another, she has a job which pays her fairly well. She's got her family close to her. She's still fairly young. She has a disposable income. She's got a lot going for her. And I will say this, Chantal is conventionally attractive. Those are all of the things that she has going for her. And the Canadian medical system affords her so many opportunities to better her life. But the only person who can really make those changes is her. And the first step to really changing a negative behavior about yourself is to acknowledge that you have it, which is not something that I've ever really seen Chantal do. Anytime she displays negative behavioral traits, she always passes it off as something else. She'll say, I'm just defending myself. Well, it's true. Well, I don't care that you're sensitive and a snowflake. Nothing is ever her fault and she's never wrong. And it is a problem. You can't fix an aspect of your life if you're not willing to address that there's something wrong with it. And I'm saying this from personal experience. I said it on Twitter as well, which if you don't follow me there, always be plugging. But I had an anger issue when I was younger. I was very quick to lash out, very quick to hurt people because I was hurting. I was in pain. And it was something that I didn't like about myself. It was an ugly part of me. And when I accepted that that's what I was doing, that I was unnecessarily causing harm to people when they were not trying to harm me, I started to better myself. And I didn't do it by myself. A lot of love from family and friends and therapy, a lot of therapy. But you know, I got there. I got better. And honestly, I've got a much better handle on my temper issues now, which is why I like a lot of the criticism that I get from people on the internet doesn't really bother me. None of your opinions, no offense, mean very much to me. It's the people in my personal life, the people that I love, and yes, even my YouTube friends, whose opinion makes a difference to me. If they thought that I was doing something wrong, that I was being a bad person, then yeah, I would 100% take that into consideration. But people that I don't really have a connection with, not thinking the best of me, doesn't really make a difference to me anymore because I don't care, you know? And just learning to accept that, learning not to care so much about other people's opinions and learning not to internalize all that pain has really, really helped me to let go and to not lash out at people especially when they don't deserve it, especially when they have just a difference of opinion from me. Yeah, there's a lot more personal stuff there too that I don't really want to get into, but you know, I just mean to say I can understand why she does it, even if I don't excuse that she's doing it. That's all I have to say on this. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated it, you can give me a thumbs down. That's totally okay. I respect everybody's opinions here. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below and hit all if you want to know when I upload any video right away. I've got all my social medias linked down below. I've got Instagram where I upload food stuff and life stuff, and it's a little lacking in both, but I'll get to it. I promise. I've also got Twitter. I'm a little bit toxic and a little bit petty, but I'm the easiest reach there. And if you ever want to actually just talk to me, that's where you should do it. And lastly, I've got Patreon. Think of Patreon as the tip jar for the internet. So if you like the job that I'm doing and you'd like me to continue, hey, consider tossing a few coins in my direction. You don't have to. It's not necessary. But if you did, I would appreciate it. And as always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace.